Quorum Radio, baby. Quorum Radio on now with Matt Bracken. As you'll recall, Matt Bracken is a former U.S. Navy SEAL. He went through Navy ROTC at the University of Virginia. He became, after his time serving the United States Navy as a U.S. Navy SEAL, he did a number of things, but one of the biggest things he did was become a very successful fiction writer. His books, of course, Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, Domestic Enemies, Foreign Enemies and Traitors, Castigo K, which is the first of his Dan Kilmer novels, and Red Cliffs of Zerhoun. Red Cliffs of Zerhoun. By the way, in case you're wondering how do you spell Zerhoun, it's Z-E-R-H-O-U-N. Z-E-R-H-O-U-N. Anyway, so Red Cliffs of Zerhoun, it's a great book, fascinating book, and Dan Kilmer is the character that's living in a dystopian world sometime in the future when things are just basically slowly but surely falling apart. So, Matt, let me get into a little bit more about this incredible vessel called the Rebel Yell. Rebel Yell, why? Tell us about that name.
Well, it's a multiple entendre name. It refers to the Confederate battle cry, which is, I guess, a little bit unpolitically correct. But I actually got the idea while I was watching a documentary about Billy Idol, where he was talking about his early career before he was well known. And he was at a party with Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. He was sort of like a backup band guy.
Right.
And he saw them drinking whiskey from a bottle, and he, had never seen it before, and he checked the bottle out, and it was called Rebel Yell, which is like 100 proof bourbon whiskey and in the States. And a little bit lesser known brand, but that was the genesis of Billy Idol's song Rebel Yell, which I loved. And when I lived on a different boat in South Florida a long time ago, one of the boats that was tied up in a marina next to me was also called Rebel Yell. So it was always kind of in the back of my mind. And that's how I chose that name for the name of the boat in the Dan Kilmer novels.
Which is kind of perfect in a way, because one of the things about Dan Kilmer is that he's kind of a rebel against the established system that leaves him as basically an ex-Marine that's either going to be homeless or a man without a country on a boat in the open ocean, right?
Right, because in the setup for the first Dan Kilmer novel, he's in the Bahamas, which is close to Florida, but he can't sail back to Florida because he'll lose his boat for back taxes. And this is a pretty real world problem. His only asset is the boat, and in the novel they've passed all kind of laws that it doesn't matter if you're in the country or out of the country, you have to pay into the National Health Plan and other things, and he hasn't been. So if he returns, as soon as they check his passport and his IRS file, they'll say you're in arrears on your tax debt, and if you can't pay, we'll just take the boat. So he's an American, excuse me, who can't return to America, and he also can't, work legitimately overseas because he's a foreign national anywhere he goes. You're welcome. Right. In general, you're welcome if you arrive as a tourist with money, but not if you come to work. So he has to.
Oh, sure.
And the boat itself is going to take, in today's money, more or less about $10,000 a year just to support the boat, just to keep the boat in paint and sails and diesel fuel. So he's got to come up with money, otherwise the boat will deteriorate and eventually, be worthless. So he's got to earn money by his wits outside of the system, outside of America.
Right. So and what I find fascinating is that he sails up to, I guess, on a calm, placid summer day when the ocean, the Atlantic north east Atlantic is a little bit calmer. He runs up to Greenland, where there's an abandoned NATO base.
Right.
What's that all about?
That's the setup for the Red Cliffs of Zerhoun, which begins with the boat in Ireland where he had sold half of the cargo, which is 90 some drums of fuel that can fit into the cargo hold between the two masts on this trading schooner, 60-foot steel sailboat, and it has enough room for 90 55-gallon drums of diesel, which he
Wow.
has liberated from an abandoned NATO base. I mean, this is at
Liberated,
a
I
point
love
in
it.
the well, this is at a point in the future where the U.S. military has. It's sort of like at the period, the years after the fall of the Soviet Union,
Yeah,
where ships were just tied up and abandoned. So
sure. And they're not.
he's got a tip. Yeah, he's got a tip that they've just abandoned a base, and the diesel drums are just sitting there. So they fill the boat up, they motor to Ireland, and then they're trying to sell the fuel, which is how he winds up being in the place at the right place in the right time to be strong armed into going on this rescue mission in Morocco.
They know it has a great cargo holding capacity. Well, let me ask you a question. The Rebel Yell in the book, Red Cliffs of Zerhoon, is like what, a 60-foot steel schooner?
Right.
Okay. So how much could it hold in terms of tonnage?
The boat itself, if it was empty, would weigh somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 or 80,000 pounds empty. But
Yeah.
depending on its construction, but you could easily load another 30,000 in it and be low on your water line, especially if you were carrying something like diesel, because you would just run the engine nonstop. You would just run it like you were an Alaska crab fishing boat. You wouldn't bother with sails at all. So it wouldn't
Right.
matter if you were low in the water while you're just chugging from Iceland to Ireland. Then you're tying up and just selling the drums.
Nice. Yeah, it's great. I love it. And so anyway, we get to Dan, the man who's got, he's an American without a country, sort of. And we look at people who basically try to take things into their own hands because they're resourceful and they look at things falling apart around them, which, by the way, reminds me of Kenosha, Wisconsin. I don't know. I just, for some
Yeah.
reason, I went inland there, Matt, and I thought about
Yeah.
thought
Well,
about what
it
was
is
going.
it's on the shore of Lake Michigan, and if you're to Kenosha would consider itself a seaside town, just like Chicago and Milwaukee. You can't see across a Great Lake. There are full-size ships on those lakes.
Oh, they're huge,
So
and that's
yeah,
why
they're
the U.S.
huge.
Navy, has this Great Lakes Naval Facility,
That's
of all
right.
places inland, but on Lake
Yeah,
Michigan, which is a ocean-going vessel body of water.
very cold,
Connects to
very
the.
cold. But that's where they do recruit basic training, and it's
Sure,
mighty cold in January. I understand.
and miserable. Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect place.
they got rid of their training, their boot camp facilities in Orlando, Florida, and San Diego, California, and kept the one in Michigan. So that there were congressmen involved in that decision.
In case